there's a generation that's still here, that still cares about seeing the gospel preached everywhere.
What is something that the people listening need to know about Gen Z?
A guy who was 20 years older than me. He started to disciple me, and that's why I am a disciple today. The older generation, they should know that we need them.
Be really intentional with your local church and the youth that are right there.
If there's more of that in the broader church, it's like, hey, I just want to listen, it would transform the next generation. When an adult comes alongside or not an adult, we're adults, but when an older adult comes alongside a young leader and says, hey, I just want to know you. What's your story? And you're able to just show up and be there like Jesus does. I think that speaks volumes to the next generation.
I know that there are young leaders on every continent of the world in the next generation who love the Lord. A lot of them want to make a difference for Jesus once they are a believer. Often they just don't know how. They need people who can invest into them and empower them. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this video and this conversation where we have an amazing group here of young people here and have gathered a crew here of all Gen Z. We've been hearing a lot about Gen Z, learning about those who are younger, born between 1995 to 2010 and all those in between. And with that, there's been a lot of conversation and a lot of talk about how can we reach the next generation? Because I think a lot of people, their heart is just burning for the people who are in our world from all nations who are younger and therefore are wanting to have conversations. And there's a ton of people who are in this next generation track. And so we wanted to get a group together of Gen Z to be able to have a conversation to talk about ways that from our perspective, number one, that people can be encouraged about some of what God is doing through Gen Z already. And then also to be able to have a bit of a conversation about ways that we think that you can help reach and empower our generation in ways that could really, really help. So again, my name is Jordan Whitmer. I'm 26 years old. I lead a ministry called the HowToLife Movement that's spreading around the world, helping teens and young people in their cities and contexts to reach their friends for Christ. And a couple of you on this panel have been part of HowToLife initiatives in the past. But all of us here, we're Gen Z. We're leaders from different countries and continents even. And before we get into the questions, could everyone just maybe share your name and where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Nema. I am from Kenya, but currently based in California as a student.
Hi, my name's Kayla, and I'm from Toronto, Canada.
Hi, my name is Peace. I'm from London in the UK.
Hello, my name is Sverre, and I'm based in Bergen in Norway.
So guys, let's just jump right into it and talking about Gen Z. We hear a lot of bad news, a lot about the problems in Gen Z and how few young people may or may not know Jesus around the world and how many are in need of hearing the gospel. But the good news is that many young people in our generation who do know Jesus often are very passionate and are very strong. And there are some really encouraging things that are happening around the world. And each of us here have had the privilege of being in a front row seat to a lot of these things. And so I'd love if we could all share just a little bit of encouragement, even just here at the start of to talk about what are just maybe some of your heart for Gen Z. And let's talk a little bit about how what your observations are in terms of the young people in our world and kind of the spiritual tone. But then if you want to share a little bit of encouragement with that as well, that might be great. But Nema, could you just share with us a little bit about what you've observed with Gen Z in Kenya and California and through some of your experiences?
Yeah, I would love to. So I had the privilege of serving at Viola with the Student Missionary Union. And each year we would put on a missions conference fully led by students, and we would see hundreds of students dedicating and committing themselves to do full-time missions. Others dedicated themselves to doing workplace missions and ministry. So that would be, just such an encouraging thing to see for us as leaders, us as student leaders who would fervently pray for a missions conference like this, and to see our students being sent out to different parts of the world is so encouraging. As well, in California, I would serve at a Kenyan church with the youth and the teens of that church. And it's such a small group, about 15 of teenagers ranging from 15 to 18. And actually 2 weeks ago, about 10 of them got baptized, which was so exciting to celebrate the goodness of the Lord, that he is moving. And just a bit about this church, it is predominantly older in generation. So the young ones sometimes feel sidelined or unseen. And I had the privilege of coming in and using card games, actually, which is very small, something that can be overlooked, but card games brought us together as a community, to have us have fun together, to celebrate and to have joy with one another. And just with that interaction, the love of the Lord was able to just pierce into their hearts and to remind them that they have been chosen, that there's a calling for them on this earth that is specifically given by the Lord to them. They're baptized, and we thank God. Heaven is rejoicing, and so am I. So.
That's amazing. And the Lord is definitely working in the hearts of young people. And I think there's a bit of a hunger right now. We hear about revival, and everybody wants revival. Like, Lord, revive our land, revive our world, and revive Gen Z. And revival happens when there's prayer and repentance. And I think a lot of that's been happening in recent years. And there definitely are some stirrings around the world of just young people, and that's why we're seeing, whether it's on the campuses like what you've seen, Nema, and or in the cities or in the communities, and really on every continent in different places, there's stories of Gen Z leaders stepping up. And these are leaders who love the Lord, they want to impact their generation, but many of them just need to be empowered, given an opportunity, and when that happens, it's incredible. And it seems like at Biola that's been happening, and in so many different contexts. And Kayla, I want to ask you now just to talk a little bit, and you and I get to work together and connect. We've known each other for a while now in terms of working to reach teens and young people through the ministry that I help head up, and then you head up the Canadian side of this with our HowToLife movement. And can you just share a little bit about what you've seen God do in Canada across the country? And you've got an amazing country, many young people from all over the world who live there. But talk to us a little bit about what God's doing in Canada.
I think How to Live Canada, or Canada in general, is really unique. Where I'm from in Toronto is known as the most ethnically diverse area in the world. So you get everybody from every nation coming together. And so I love to watch how that shifts, how that operates in the church context, because you've got the Ethiopian church, and then you've got the Egyptian church, and then you've got the Korean church, all kind of mixing together in this one place. And I think it speaks a lot to what God's doing in our generation, the unity that we're seeing in Canada. Like within my How to Life communities, specifically our Canada specifically, I'm seeing such a hunger for prayer. And as I'm talking to people, even here at Lausanne, Gen Z here at Lausanne, where I think we're all seeing it across the board, where it's like we want nothing more than Jesus. And we know that revival is not going to, like you were saying, revival is not going to happen if we don't pray. And so, like, there's been moments, like, specifically at our retreat this past a few weeks ago, where I was like, okay, everything has to be perfect. I need to set things up like this, and it's going to happen like this, and we can get so caught up in our plans. And then one of my leaders came to me, he's like, Kayla, this is prayer. Like, what are we trying to do here? Like, we're coming before God. And we did. It was beautiful. We spent hours and hours interceding for our generation, interceding for each other, interceding for the nations. And I think there's a hunger for the simple gospel that we're seeing. Like, regardless, we don't need the flashy lights or all the other things, but Gen Z wants authenticity across the board. And so I think what I'm seeing in my community, and as I'm talking to youth pastors in different areas in Canada, they're saying the same thing of like, wow, this is different. wow, something's happening and we don't know what to do about it. We're all in. And so I think for me, it's really beautiful to see in my context the people wanting to wake up at 6 a.m. for prayer, just to say, okay, we're going to pray over our school day, we're going to pray over our generation, we're going to pray over each other every morning for the next, in our community, it was for like 6 months straight of waking up before school, let's intercede for our generation, let's intercede for each other. And so I just love seeing this like prayer movement that's rising up in Gen Z.
Peace. I want to come to you now just to talk a little bit about London, what you've seen God do there. Another one of these global mega cities like Toronto and New York City, where I live. Like, you're in London. So we have 3 of the most global cities in the world represented on this panel, which is cool. But in London, you've had a front row seat to see some incredible things. And I know the UK has been a place where revival and history has broken out and spread to the world. It happens there a lot for some reason. But in recent years, I know there's been a lot of, like, there can be a lot of sad news and bad news. I know one of our British young people I work with, and some of us work with, has said he was the only Christian at his high school. And there are so few British young people sometimes that really know what it means to live for Jesus and follow him. But on the other hand, God's doing something special in England and throughout the UK. And can you share just a little bit about what you've observed the Lord do in London, in the UK, and just through some of your own experiences?
I guess as you touched on, I think in the UK right now, we're living in a postmodern society where Christianity isn't nearly as integrated in our culture as it was maybe even like 10, 15 years ago. So it's more difficult, I think, being a Christian in London, in the UK. But at the same time, as you said, there's been really exciting things. Off the back of Asbury, there were a few pastors that went out and were so stirred by what was happening. And they were like, we need to see this here in London. And so 3 pastors from different churches came together to host these joint prayer nights. And hundreds of young people came to them. And it would be like 12-hour prayer nights. They weren't like 2-3 hours. It was literally all night praying, contending for a move of God in London, where we cried out, God, would you pour out your spirit again? Would you pour out your spirit in London, in the UK? And there were so many testimonies that came out of that. And even just this past summer, we had a massive gathering hosted by the Send, and over 7,000 young people across the UK came to gather together to wage the war on inaction and actually say there's a generation that's still here, that still cares about seeing the gospel preached everywhere. And even that night, there were hundreds of people that went out on the streets sharing the gospel, and many people gave their lives to Jesus. There were lots of testimonies that came from that. So it's really exciting seeing how in the midst of what feels like quite a dire place, actually God is really on the move.
Wow. Sverre, I want to hear from you now. You are from Norway, another country in Europe that I know similarly, maybe 100 years ago would have had a bunch of people going to church and following, reading the Bible, doing things like that. But these days is not maybe as common in some of the ways. And in many ways, that seems to be kind of a trend throughout Europe, because Europe at one point in time was, at least 150 years ago, or whenever it was the sending continent. I mean, it had churches and Christian stuff and would send people all over the world, both with churches and missionaries and things. But in the last 100 years, that has really flipped, and what was maybe one of the brightest, if not the brightest continents for Jesus, might be one of the darkest right now, at least in the general trends. However, I know from some of what I've observed in meeting incredible Christian Gen Z European young people, is that those of you that are there that love Jesus are so passionate and often are like, we want to see change happen. And you've got the Revive Europe ministry. You've got folks with like circuit riders and others who are running around doing incredible stuff. And just it seems like there's European Gen Z stepping up left and right in countries that maybe 20 years ago, this sort of thing would have been hard to imagine. But can you share with us a little bit about what you're seeing both in Norway, in Europe?
So 4 years ago, I moved to Bergen, and I signed up on a contract to live in a Christian collective. And I signed up to pray 5 times a week, every morning, with other 9 people in that collective. And that was the the beginning of change in the students in Bergen, because we saw that God was really at move. We saw that when all of us as a collective, as a community, are wholeheartedly praying for revival, things happen, and we were more and more discipled. We ate food together. We traveled to missions together. One time we got a visit from the Revive organization, and this year we also have the Revive conference in Krakow in Poland in New Year's Eve, and I'm a part of the Revive staff. So we travel around Europe and we try to mobilize for this conference, because we believe that God is at move in Europe. Last weekend I was in Budapest with a bunch of people from Revive, and we just saw that God was really at move in Budapest in a church there. We saw many people who came and were ministered to, were empowered, and we had like over 100 people from Europe signing up that weekend to the conference. And it's not about the events, but we know that the events that bring people together,
Yes.
and all can be empowered. 4 years ago, we started a prayer meeting for students on Mondays. In the start, we were only like 10 people who lived together in a collective. And now it's actually 60 people who come regularly to that prayer meeting. And it's not about the number, but it's about like people growing in maturity and in loving Christ. And when people are wholeheartedly, as we saw in that collective in Bergen, the Holy Spirit give gifts as He pleases. So some of us in the collective are more into like, I want to teach people the Bible. Some are like, we need to go out on the streets. Need to go out on universities. And that's how the Spirit works when we are wholeheartedly given to Him. So it's amazing to see how God moves in Norway at the moment. It's pretty amazing. I'm so stirred for what He's gonna do the next coming years among students.
That's so amazing. And well, yeah, thank you all for sharing so far. I mean, I hope for those of you that are listening and tuning into this, that you can be encouraged to know that God's not done with the next generation. Young people are not a lost cause by no means, but the Lord is at work. He's stirring things up all over the world on different continents in different places. And again, each of us here have had a front row seat to it. And young people are hungry. There's a lot of statistics. And again, the sad reality is that most young people in the world, there's billions of people in the world, and a couple billion of them are young people, Gen Z. And of them, the high majority don't know Jesus. And we know that. That's why we're here. That's why we're at Lausanne, is we want to reach the world. We want to see people all over come to know Jesus and to find hope in Him, not just for all eternity, but even for this lifetime, because young people, they're going through so much. There's so many bad statistics, whether it's anxiety, depression, loneliness, suicide even. It's horrible. But the Lord is working in people's lives, bringing people to Himself. And I think a key theme is student leadership. When you have young people who are empowered and they share and they step out in different ways, whatever that looks like, there's just something contagious about empowering someone who is young, who's 25 or younger, or even a teen, to share Jesus with their peers. Whatever context that looks like, it can be amazing. And the Lord is working through things like that, and through just people stepping up and believing that God can work. We love the verse 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech and conduct, love, faith, purity. And yeah, it really is important for us, and for those of us. And again, I'm getting older, so I am trying to invest in the young people myself and know, look, let's not look down on someone, no matter how young they may be. But on that note, again, there's a lot of people involved with Lausanne who they care deeply about Gen Z. It's one of the top topics being talked about here this week, and ongoingly. and Lazan prioritizes the next generation deeply. But as members of the next generation, I want you guys to think about an answer to this question. What is one thing, or maybe two things, that you would hope an older ministry leader would learn, or that they should know about our generation? What is something that the people listening need to know about Gen Z?
I think definitely one thing I'd say is Gen Z really value authenticity. And I think even just seeing, again, just what we're seeing in London and the UK, I think there's a real need for authentic spaces where they can come in and really feel that sense of belonging. And for the older generation to also be able to create those kind of authentic spaces. And then I guess even second thing to kind of tie into the first, I think, again, a lot of things that we're seeing is just the value of intergenerational relationships. And that really being authentic and real, and not just kind of like, we as older leaders are going to lead and the young generation will just kind of tag along, but actually authentically being like, we want to invest in you, we want to create space, and young people actually feeling that sense of authenticity.
I think you've hit on one of the most important points that I think all of us would agree with here, is that when it comes to the intergenerational relationships, Gen Z needs the older generations. They need the older generation to pour into us. Well, we need the older generation to pour into us, to invest into us. But that doesn't mean just, hey, you young person, you should do this. I'm going to talk down to you like this. And like that's not authentic. And the authentic side of this is just being like, who are you? Like, just with your life, just being genuine. There's an app that's very popular with our generation and others called Be Real. And this was so real of a thing that someone made an app about this whole concept. And when in doubt, be real, I think, is very true when it comes to relationships with the next generation. And we need the older generation. We want their help and encouragement. And but just be yourself. Share your testimony. How did you find Jesus? How did Jesus walk you through life? And be a person, not a figure, a title, this or that, but just be a person. Care. Show you care. Love the next generation, be authentic with them, and let us know that you believe in us. And as we look to do that for those younger than us, say, I believe in you. I think that can be huge. And Sverre, I want to go to you now. What's one thing or a couple things, your thoughts on what the older generation should know about Gen Z?
Well, my story is that I grew up in a Christian home, but I was ashamed of sharing about the good news of Jesus Christ to my classmates. So what happened when I was 17, that was that a guy who was 20 years older than me, he started to disciple me, and that's why I am a disciple today. I felt so that I like belonged in his community and with his friends, and he took me to places in Norway that I could get Christian friends I didn't have in my city, in my village. And he really shared his life to me so I could be honest and share my life. So that's been alpha and omega in my life, that he came in 20 years older, just talking honest about life, struggles, talking about the Bible. So that the older generation, they should know that we need them.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest one for me as well. Just to go off of what you have said, I served at a church as a worship leader for about a year and a half. And my desire as I would serve Sunday after Sunday is that the older generation would try to get to know me, to be real, to invest in friendship and relationship. And that's something that I lacked. So after a year and a half, I found myself just feeling almost empty or disappointed, I guess. And that caused me to take a break even from worship leading and to identify what is the role of a church, a local church, in my life and in the life of other people my age. So I think my encouragement to the older generation is be really intentional with your local church and the youth that are right there. A local church, the structure of it is so unique that you can not only invest in the people at church, but you know their homes, you know their parents. You're able to, just richly impact their life because they're proximally you're next to each other. I don't know if that's a word, but yes, the proximity of you and that person is just unique and gives you a unique opportunity to be a friend and for that to be felt. And so that's my biggest thing, is that we need to encourage older people to be intentional. I think they sometimes feel like they can't understand Gen Z, or that maybe our problems are too big, or they want to hire someone from outside to bring them to the church to figure us out. But none of that is true. We want to know our uncles and our aunties and the people that we've grown up seeing. We want to know you as friends, as people. We want to know your struggles and to share our own. So
That's so insightful. Are we just trying to hire out someone to figure out Gen Z when what if we don't need to hire anyone? It just needs to start with us. And wow. Kayla.
I think one of the biggest things for me would be to see unconditional love from those that have gone before us. I think Gen Z is interesting because we want your voice so badly, but a lot of the times people can assume that we don't want adults in our lives because we automatically assume that judgment, if that makes sense, or oftentimes I think adults can assume that because we've put up walls that we don't want you guys there. But there is such a hunger just to be known. We've been talking about authenticity a whole lot. To be known and seen. And so as Jordan was saying, when you can show up and you can just ask questions, hey, how are you? Hey, what are you doing? Here at Ladonna, one of my groups, we've been talking a lot about the difference between discipleship and leadership. When an adult comes alongside or not an adult, we're adults, but when an older adult comes alongside a young leader and says, hey, I just want to know you. What's your story? And you're able to just show up and be there like Jesus does. I think that speaks volumes to the next generation. Not having all the right answers or trying to, oh, you're doing this wrong and this wrong and this wrong, but just showing up and being a consistent presence. I talked to so many friends who are so hungry for that. Who were like, I really just want a mentor. I really just want somebody to listen. Because like you were saying, a lot of the times we pour out a whole lot, but it's hard to find somebody that will sit and listen and disciple and mentor and teach us how to follow Jesus before we can pour out and lead. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I would love to see from generations gone before us. Or not even love to see, because I've even being here, it's been cool to have people come up and say, hey, how can we serve you guys? It's been beautiful. And I think if there's more of that in the broader church, it's like, hey, I just want to listen, it would transform the next generation.
Yeah, this is such amazing stuff, guys. And I truly believe, just from traveling the world as I have, and many of us have been able to go to different contexts and see things, I believe, and not just believe, I know that there are young leaders on every continent of the world in the next generation who love the Lord. A lot of them want to make a difference for Jesus once they are a believer. Often they just don't know how. They need people who can invest into them and empower them. And whether it's reaching a young person or empowering them in different ways, it, I think, does involve just having that intentionality, having ways to just go out of our way to see who are the people in our proximity, as you said, or just that are in our world, that are around us, that the Lord has put in our life, and how can we love them? How can we encourage them? How can we believe in them and help them on this journey and following Christ? And because all of us are on this journey with Jesus and want to make His name known throughout the earth, and that's what the Great Commission is all about, is making disciples, and it's so important in this journey. And we are about to need to wrap up here, but I want to give everyone maybe just a final few seconds each. Just what is kind of, if you could share one final thing, just an encouragement that to the older generation or the younger generation. Hopefully there's some young people tuning in too, but just any final encouragement that you guys want to share to add on to this conversation?
I think there's a theme between a lot of our conversations about prayer.
Yes.
And I think it's really encouraging to hear, like, because I see it in my context, but you're seeing it in London, and you're seeing it in Norway, and you're seeing it in California. And so I think an encouragement would be, God's not done with Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've seen revival start for prayer repentance, and we're seeing across the board Gen Z stopping and saying, hey, we interceding for that. I'm asking, would you intercede along with us? Because we're seeing stirrings all over the place. And so it would happen if we all joined together intergenerationally and cried out for revival together, as we are in these separate pockets.
I think I would say that like the importance for my growing in faith and maturity, it's been living in a collective with Christians who share the same heart and the same direction. And if you are new to a city as a student, considering living with other Christians and have a routine of prayer and eating together.
That's good.
Yeah, I think I would say focusing on friendship is really important, and on joy. I mentioned earlier the card games that I've played with the teenagers in the Kenyan church in California. And that's such a small thing, but the amount of joy that it would bring to these youth every Sunday to just play with each other, to laugh, to focus on friendship and invest in friendship, that I think did so much more than words could have expressed. I could say that I'm your friend, but do I spend the time with you? Do I give you, do I give you time to be in my life? Do I invite you into this space? Just being intentional with friendship is what I would say for the older generation, for the younger generation. The love of Jesus is in you and radiates through you. So shine and put yourself in places that people can experience that love, experience that joy within you.
I think it's probably linked to what everybody else has said, but I think just the real value of support networks and just getting support as you're praying, believing for revival. I think, as you said about community, it's so much more powerful when you're in a community that can run with you in that, but at the same time laugh together and do all of the different things that young people do. So just having that sense of support network who can pray with you, encourage you, support you as we continue for revival.
Well, guys, this has been an amazing and hopefully fun and encouraging conversation. I know for us and hopefully for those of you that are listening, and be encouraged. And I mean, for any of you listening, if you're or watching, if you have a heart for Gen Z, I know for all of us, I'm sure we'd love to connect with you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. We have social media and all those sorts of things. And I know I'd love to connect with any of you that have a heart for Gen Z, ministry that Kayla and I are a part of, and Peace also was part of years ago in London called HowToLife Movement. We're working with young people all over the world. So if you have 16 to 24-year-olds in your community who want to hear, who could be empowered to reach their friends for Jesus, we'd love to connect with you in your countries and see what we could do in your context, in your places, and would love to connect, whether through social media or however. And I want to leave you with one final Bible verse here that just really, I think, summarizes the theme in our heart. And that's Acts 2:17. We've heard this verse this week at Lausanne, where this is Peter's Pentecost sermon. He is quoting the prophet Joel, who's sharing what the Lord said in how in the last days, God says he will pour out his spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will cry out. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. And I like that verse because it talks about all the generations, the older generation, the younger generation, and how they're both part of this mission to reach the world. And whenever the last days are, whenever that is, it's going to involve intergenerational working together. But let's help the young people. It's in scripture, so it's right there. But the older generation is right there with us. And so, guys, this has been fun. What a conversation, and thank you guys for tuning in.